Hello there, and welcome to Find Your Voice, the show where we interview experts and leaders on their insights and sharing their wonderful knowledge and life expertise with you, the wonderful audience. My name's Cramond, and today I've got a lovely guest, Manna Abraham. She is the author and founder, a life code architect, and a trauma healing mentor, creator of the EMPR Method, trainer of coaches and wellness practitioners. Wonderful to meet you, Manna. How are you doing today?
Thank you. And thank you for meeting me in spite of your travels.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm currently in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia at the moment. So when me and Manna spoke the first time, I was in Vietnam. So I'm doing a bit of a Southeast Asia tour. And Manna's decided to work with us, getting on top 20% of global podcasts to do with her expertise, to share her knowledge. So let's talk about what you do and what it's all about, Manna. Give us a bit of an insight if you can.
So thank you for having me, Joe. And I think the message for what I want to share with the world is when you can heal in hours, why are you stuck for life, right? Be it trauma or in relationships, because everything else is a result of trauma, whether you put it in quotes as trauma as something significant or something simple, it doesn't matter. We are all stuck in some form of a memory, and it's so easy to come out of it. But I see that from my experience that people get stuck for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
So when are you living? So my message through this, what I would like to share is when there is a shorter way, why do you take the longer route?
Yes, exactly. That makes perfect sense. And I think in this day and age, a lot of people, more than ever, are suffering with a lot of anxiety, a lot of issues with depression, and everyone's feeling the stress of just modern day life, I guess. And I think as well with job cuts happening globally with AI, it's time for people to start, healing their issues and kind of finding some balance to be able to kind of navigate the change. Because with, obviously things that are negative, there's also a lot of positives happening. There's a lot of opportunities for a lot of people to change their lives as well for the better. So I understand you've got a corporate background as a chartered accountant. So what kind of pivoted you into getting into the trauma healing side of things? What was that change for you there?
Yeah. So I wanted to take the toughest course because I needed a challenge. So my life went on to, I started off with engineering, mathematics, and physics. And then I thought I need a bigger challenge. And then I went on to become a chartered accountant and a certified practicing accountant. So, and then the corporate world is really good because it met the needs for challenge and everything else. But also that gives you a lot of exposure to leadership, that gives you a lot of exposure to leadership trainings like Myers-Briggs and DISCs, and you understand a lot about that. But as I started working with people from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds, one thing that stood out is wherever there is a human being, it is not about performance. It's not about being a performer or a good employee or a good colleague. It's really about operating from that fearlessness, from that inner strength. But organizations somehow, based on the experiences in that moment, if you're doing a Myers-Briggs, you can put me into an INTJ, or DISC. If you're doing me, you can profile me as a very compliance oriented person, but it's the job that dictates my personality. It's not the personality that dictates your job, right? So, and that to me being a chartered accountant, as an auditor, I was a very compliant person because internal controls, your role is to find faults. And then as you become a CFO, you are much more on a bigger picture that you get a balcony view of departments, organizations. So you don't go into detail. So that puts you into an inspiration or into another category, but not a compliant or a detailed person. So can you see your work and the role defines your identity, but not the other way around? And then I'm viewing you through that lens of that one identity, which is your job, not you as a person. So where are we actually talking to the person? Where are we actually understanding what is happening behind the scenes for you? And based on that, we are basing performance reviews. But are we actually reviewing performances based on who you are versus what you're doing? They can be completely two different things. And I think that led me to understand that every person I talk to, they've gone through something so significant, something so traumatic, or something, it's a trauma does not necessarily have to be so catastrophic. It can be parents separating as when you're a kid, can be very traumatic, right? So in that process, the emotions and the identities that they develop as providers or caretakers or givers, they cannot come out of that and they get stuck in it. And that's what they're bringing into their roles.
Yes.
So when I saw this from, not from a team member, but from a leader's role, because a team member has a different view. But only once you climb up, you can see the big picture and you see that they are just the byproducts of what they have been through.
Exactly.
And it's important to understand them and then help them. And I think that made the entire shift for me. And it's interesting. I was working this time for an insurance organization, and the phone call was going on in terms of what will happen if you lose your home? What will happen if you lose your pet? What will happen? Are we inducing fear because we operate from fear? That made me to pivot and say, right, we have to create a different conversation around this. We have to create a completely different understanding of who we are and our identities stemmed in different experiences. Yeah, so that's been the foundation.
That's great. That's really interesting insights, and it makes it's going to make a huge impact if leaders of businesses can take on that self-discovery and be vulnerable and look at themselves and think, why are people saying I'm a narcissist or something? Because obviously, what it's like in the top world leaders are all being labeled as being ruthless and narcissistic and unempathetic. And why are they that way? Or are they putting on that front because they feel like they have to try and save face? Or is it because they've been through some stuff and criticized as a kid and trauma? And this is all really interesting information that people need to kind of find out about themselves. And I understand you've written a book, I can see in the background there, called Finally Free. So tell us a little bit about what that is and how that reads.
Right. So the Finally Free, the 6-step path to healing personal and generational trauma, when talk therapy isn't enough, it serves two purposes. One, from my work that I'm doing and people from all around the world, after being through like 30, 40, 50 decades of trauma and getting stuck with therapy, they get the result in less than 1 to 6 sessions and they're free from it and they're ready to learn life. Because if you're stuck in challenges of healing, when will you experience the challenges of living, right? So it's important to transition into that. But the challenges are when you are, as you rightly said, the leaders, what made them leaders is their past, because they had to push back and come out of it. And they had to step up. They had to do whatever it takes. It's almost like a mantra, get over it. So before healing from trauma, the mantra is get over it. And after healing from trauma, the mantra is still get over it, but in a different context, in a different way. It's the decision. So it's a decision without suppression.
Yeah.
It's a decision without the fear. It's a decision without disempowerment. So you still cross the challenge, but not by suppressing, not out of shame or not out of embarrassment or abandonment or isolation. And still you will take the decision to step up. So there's a big difference. So this Finally Free is to cater to that intelligent mind, because we didn't come here just by being nobody. You are someone. That's why you are here. You achieved everything. But what are you not sharing? What are you not allowing others to see? As you rightly use the word narcissist. A narcissist is a deeply hurt person who is never heard and understood, never feeling safe anywhere. So they have to dominate before someone else dominates them.
Yes.
So who is understanding?
Yeah.
Right. So who is understanding these intelligent minds, right? If you're not an intelligent person or a successful person, you didn't taste the success. You didn't understand the challenges of reaching that point. You didn't get there. But once you get there, it's important to again soften up and be open to know again, be open to learn, be open to see that abstracts, not just from a logical mind, but there is something beyond that logical thinking.
Yes.
It's not emotional, not logical. There is something else that will open up. And if leaders can open up to that abstract understanding beyond logic, because you suppress emotion and you become so logical, so practical, so controlling, which I did too. But once you cross that, you will see the subtle aspects of life, which is more powerful than human possibility.
Yes.
And when leaders are operating from that space, you empower people with your presence. So in leadership, we talk about presence, but presence is not about how you put your fingers in your temple like this to exude authority, or putting your fingers on your chin, resting your hands on your chin. We teach the leadership traits, but Are you that? Are you pretending? You cannot fake it to make it. Something has to resolve to be that conscious leader.
Yes, for sure.
So from learning traits to exude leadership, to be a person who can be a good leader, a conscious leader, the shift should happen from allowing that emotion to come up and let it flow, be logical, but also be open to the abstract, beyond your possibility. And we do that, we create and help people to evolve. We help them to be who they are. So they don't have to please me anymore. I'm not, because I'm not afraid of being dominated or authority or anything. So by me being me, I allow you to be you, which is a great important thing for any leader. So this finally free breaks down those emotions, those identities, and those qualities into, it's almost like intellectualizing what is stopping you so you can cross that. That's finally freeing shot. And that's what each chapter talks about.
That's great. It's wonderful. And I think this is an interesting take. I really believe that if leaders start to change a lot of the ways that they think, that getting the most out of a workforce is by being that kind of like strong, authoritative, you do what I tell you to do, or there's going to be repercussions kind of mindset. It's like, well, no, you need to earn the respect of the team by understanding them and them understanding you, being open and having that connection, because you're going to find that people are going to want to do more work and be more loyal to a person that they've got a connection with on a human level, rather than just looking at someone in the top of that pyramid and being intimidated or trying to show power by, like some of the world leaders, for example, not mentioning any names, but they might fly fighter jets over their head, or they'll do something to puff the chest and to say, look at me, I'm the big guy here. And I don't know, it's all a bit, I think we've evolved, we should be evolving more from that kind of way of doing things. And I think your book is a powerful way of kind of people understanding some new insights and ideas for that. So very good. So let's talk a little bit about therapy and what people have done themselves, like self-help, but they still feel stuck. So from your perspective, what are the limits of talk therapy, and what does the approach, like your method of EMPR, how does that kind of fit in?
Yeah, right. As I was just not a chartered accountant, because I really had to understand, what is this? Like, why are we stuck? Like, because from my own past, from my own experiences, right? Because yes, the trauma, wisdom of the trauma helped me to be this successful professional, a good person. And right now, like the teams I built in 2006, like even yesterday, somebody is celebrating their birthday and they keep me in contact. They're in touch with me.
Yeah.
So the trauma helped me to become that person that can kind of a leader or a kind person or a giver. However, what is really important to understand, there is this beautiful saying which says that you cannot perceive the subtle from the lens of being a gross. No?
Right.
You cannot see the subtle from the gross lens. You cannot perceive it. It's almost like if you have a ruler to measure 1 millimeter, you can only measure a millimeter, isn't it? But
Sure.
what is there between 1 millimeter and the 2 millimeter? Are you ever measuring it?
Interesting.
So this therapy is also that process, because it's a great requirement. You need that. We are not denying it. However, where people are stuck are on this millimeter and millimeter on the ruler. That's where they are stuck. So you're trying to push them from this yard to this yard, but what is happening in between? And if you are, then I've been a neuro linguistic programming trainer, practitioner, everything else, to understand neurosciences, to understand the subconscious, because it was important for me, because I had to intellectually get it, right? Because I cannot process it emotionally, because that's what intelligence made you who you are. Intelligence made you good in numbers and running organizations and getting this, all different things. But to intellectually process it, if you're understanding neuroscience, what you repeat concretes, you're rewiring. Then why do you make someone talk over and over about the same thing? Because can you see the contradiction, the oxymoron? What you repeat concretes is neuroscience, is plasticity, is wiring, rewiring. But by making somebody to talk over and over about that, to help them to get an insight, to help them to listen to themselves, you're again concreting their story. And because of the fundamental understanding, many people think I am my emotion, I am my mind, I am my body. And because of that, whatever the mind says, you tend to identify with it, like I am that. but are you? So the difference is in understanding I am not my thoughts. It's like your mind is like AI. You train it and then it will help you. So we trained it for 30, 40, 50 years differently. And the way to retrain it is not by repeating a story or by repeating a program or retelling a story or be reliving it or ruminating about it. It's to be free from it. But because we have this framework that we put out here, it's almost like you're in this prison, you're feeling uncomfortable in this corner, go to that corner. Do you do that? Or do you help yourself and do you help others to see there is no prison at all? It's your illusion. Nobody is, if you stop giving, nobody will stop loving you. If you stop being a provider, your wife and children will not abandon you. Or if I don't say yes to people, that does not mean they will dislike me. Can you see the illusionary prisons that we are in?
Yes.
And when you're repeating it over and over and you're calling it, all right, you got good awareness, but you're concreting it. So the difference from therapy to the emotion, memory, pattern release, exactly what it says on the tin, is help them to see there are no prisons in the first place.
Makes sense.
So actually there is no prison, there is no wall. And you are moving from this corner and you're taking a medicine or a pill and you're standing in that corner. But what will happen if you stop doing that?
Yes.
Are you depending on your wisdom? This AI is capable, it's ChatGPT and advanced ChatGPT. The difference is in the question and the prompt you give. That's the information you get. And if you don't train this ChatGPT better, you only get average responses. And I can keep on giving this average prompts and I will get average response. My output is average in my relationships. My output is average in my work. Output is average as a human being. So the difference is when you can tap into that emotion, memory, and pattern, can you see they're all abstracts? Emotion is abstract. Memory is abstract. Patterns, habits are abstracts. But we are judging people by you're angry, so I don't want to relate to you. You're not understanding why are you angry? What's making you that person? What memory are you operating on? Can you see that?
Yes.
So that's the emotion and memory which are so abstract are manifesting as your patterns, your identities, not wanting to commit in relationships or not wanting somebody to say you don't know because you're afraid I don't know means I am incapable. And you're creating these walls so high. So insight, reading, or YouTube's is not the same as understanding what is in between these 2 millimeters, right? So that's the difference from a therapy to emotion memory pattern because whoever you are, you're simply a byproduct of an emotion that you're holding, a memory that you're holding, and that is manifesting as whatever it is. So you don't change the habit unless you shift the emotion and the memory, right? A person, if you can see it on the testimonial, a person who is quite a professional, quite an authority, is biting his nails when there is an authority or a woman with authority coming in, and then he wants to change his habit of biting nails when there is authority. He's a professional. But it's not about changing habit by changing or rewiring the nerves. It's actually a pattern stemming from an emotion that when a woman speaks loud, that means I can be left alone, from a memory stemming from some point. But if you get therapy, you will take at least an hour to do a timeline therapy or an hour to do regression, but you only need less than 3 minutes to release that. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's why 50, 30, 40 years becomes 1 hour to 6 hours because you only need a minute to 3 minutes to release that if you know how to get there.
Right.
And you don't
Very interesting.
You don't have to share or feel that. You don't have to go there. And we are very capable because your mind is so intelligent. You train the mind to go for 1 hour into the past. If you train the mind to go and release in 1 minute, it will do it. But again, the difference is we are so conditioned to subconscious mind that I teach your subconscious, I train your subconscious. At one point, you need that. But why do you want someone to tap with your subconscious? Why are you not able to do that?
True. Yeah.
So you have one challenge of healing, you come to a therapist. But what about if you have 1,000 challenges? Do you want somebody to tap into your subconscious for 1,000 challenges? The fishing rod versus fish. What do you give?
Yeah, I get it. I know what you're saying. Yeah. For sure. Makes sense.
So,
So yeah, this is all really interesting stuff. I definitely think your book is a very high value for a lot of people. So one thing I'll say is for practitioners listening, I mean, what are some of the red flags that high functioning clients, like self-awareness is actually a defense that keeps people from deeper healing?
yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, right. So for practitioners, it is important for you to be able to see you clearly first, because this is never about the person. This is always about the constitution of the mind. And the mind is just not in your brain, right? Brain is just a reactor. So as a practitioner, you're much more than the mind. You're much more than the body. You're just much more than that energy or consciousness. You're much more than that. As a practitioner, it is important for you to experience it so you can give that experience to a person who is intelligent, who is highly professional or a high achiever, because the higher you achieve, intelligent you are, and intelligent questions you ask, and you need evidence. And if I cannot give you that evidence, you cannot tap into an intelligent mind who wants a relief or who wants to move forward. So as a practitioner, it's important to understand that it's just not reading some books and repeating it or reciting it. It's actually understanding beyond logic, who am I?
Yeah.
And for a high performer, it's important to just acknowledge or pause, because self-awareness has levels. One level is just to acknowledge I'm feeling sad, because there's so many people who are disconnected. So they don't even acknowledge that. So the straight away they just go into go-getting mode or doing things mode or efficiency mode. So levels of awareness, the first awareness is just about understanding, right, I can feel different things differently, is a first level of awareness. But the moment you go into troubleshooting, you're missing the point, because the deeper stuff, as you go more, the self-awareness is not about just understanding and feeling emotional. It's about truly understanding what identity I'm holding here, what meaning I'm making here. If somebody is speaking authoritative, maybe I'm stepping into the identity of a son or a daughter who was constantly told by my parents. So we are constantly shape-shifting identities. These shape-shifting identities are not necessarily sequential or linear. Right in your boardroom, for your voice to be heard when you're struggling, you're a board of directors, or you're in whatever position you are, has got nothing to do with, because you can be bringing the identity of a young child who got dismissed into the boardroom.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And you're not even aware of it. So you work on leadership coaching over here, getting your voice heard, how to influence, how to take the pause, how to take command of the table, how to sit in C and D positions. You're getting trained on it, but fundamentally the roots are weak. Can you see that? So the traits to exude leadership is very different from actually a good leader do not need any of them.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that, the awareness is this. So if you're struggling to get your voice heard, or to influence your team, or to influence your colleagues, because if you have a giver identity, a great leader can be always a good friend to ones who are submissive, but never to the one who questions them, because there's a fear of authority or being small. Or a person who likes challenges is always favorable to the authority, but never to the ones down the hierarchy in an organization. Can you see how identities are the same? These emotions and memories, they impact the same in relationship, in your workplaces, career, power, every other area of your life.
Yes.
So there's no point in changing the habit without changing the identity and shifting the emotion and memory behind. The missing piece, we are stepping into coaching and mentoring without tapping into the person and their mind, body, and energy.
Understanding oneself. Yeah, this is great. Very, very interesting. Where do we find out more about what you offer here? Because I think a lot of people are going to be listening to this thinking, wow, this is really powerful stuff, and I'd love to be able to, buy the book or work with you on a one-to-one. So where would they find you about your background and information online?
Yeah, right. So easiest way is to get onto my website, mannaabraham.com. And if you want to get the book, Amazon, you can check Finally Free by Manna Abraham.
Finally Free. Wonderful, Manna. Well, no, this has been a great conversation, and thank you very much for all of your insights for everyone to be helped by, and this might inspire people. We're now recording this on a Friday, but this will be published next week. So, this is going to lead people into a positive mindset for shift and change in themselves in 2026. Thank you, Manna, for your time and your insights on our conversation. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for the time.
No worries. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you. Cheers.